Hey guys, welcome back to New World Carpentry Solutions, and in this video we're going to continue on with the drill press cabinet. We have the carcass already made. The next step is to do all the runners and drawer boxes, and I actually have compiled a bunch of scraps. I looked throughout the shop and found everything that I'm going to use for this. The bottom drawer is going to be a 10-inch drawer that can hold my vise, so this will be able to stay inside of the cabinet. It's one of those big things, and I think it'll also be able to hold the round table. So if I ever want to swap out the tables on the drill press, I can actually put those in. That'll fit inside of a 10-inch drawer, I believe. Yeah, that's under 9 inches. So a 10-inch drawer would give plenty of room for the actual drill press table too. So if I want to, actually, let me check that too. So yeah, the drill press table can also fit in there. I can put these in there. Well, not this one. It's gonna lay down now. But yeah, there'll be 2 more drawers above it. I'm planning to do one 10-inch drawer and then 2 4.5-inch drawers right above it. That'll hold all my drill bits, bit boxes, and everything else. And anything else that I do need over here on the drill press. I also do plan to add a piece of trim around the top to kind of create a shelf. And that's gonna be where I can like leave another set of drills, and anything that I'm actively using can store right down there. My fence from the drill press table can go right on top. So we're gonna get into building that. Let's actually, another thing I'm gonna do with this is I was looking at how I'm gonna lock it to the drill press and make it removable. I'm gonna add one of these toggle clamps to both sides, and then I'm gonna add a stop inside that little channel that I made the other day with the plywood. So pretty much this will slide all the way back, hit the stop, and then I can just lock it in with these toggle clamps. And also make sure I put the toggle clamps to where they sit flat on the table. So if I ever have to take this off and sit it flat on the ground or anywhere else, these don't impede with this sitting flat. So hypothetically, this is a box that I can carry around the shop if I wanted to. Or put it on wheels in itself and, you know, make this a separate cabinet. So it's not locked down to one feature, but it does work underneath the drill press. But now we're gonna make it a full cabinet by adding all the drawers. And for the drawers themselves, I'm going to be using, again, I'm trying to see how good I can make this look with using a bunch of random scrap throughout the shop. So what I'm looking at is for drawer fronts, I have some clear 1x6 pine left over. These will make all the drawer fronts. I might not do the drawer fronts in this build. I'll probably just get all the drawers in. This stack of material here will end up being all the runners. These will do all the runners that actually go inside the cabinet box. These will get ripped down to make the runners on the actual cabinets. And this is just, again, 1x6 offcut. Some of this is prime 1x4. It's been ripped down and stuff. So like, these are just random offcuts of pine that I typically hold on to because I have a small issue. But now I'm working through that issue by utilizing a lot of this inside the cabinets. For the bottom cabinet, I'm debating on, for the bottom drawer, since it's 10 inches, I do have some other 1/2-inch plywood, but those are kind of pieces that I still want to keep. So I'm looking at using this 3/4-inch piece of plywood that has no real purpose. This is actually originally what I was looking to find when I made the base over there, but I ended up using that 3/4-inch OSB. This was originally a cover for one of my trash cans. I had my DeWalt 735 blowing directly into a trash can. This was the lid. The hose went in, and these holes allowed, air to flow back out, so it didn't blow the top off the trash can. But now it's just a piece of plywood with a big hole in it and a bunch of other holes, so I have no other purpose for it. So I figured drawer fronts for a cabinet that's going to end up getting an actual drawer front to it. Not drawer fronts, but the carcass for a cabinet drawer. This will be just fine for. So this is going to be that bottom cabinet. A little thick. I typically don't make 3/4-inch drawers, but that'll be the only one. So this is the scrap for that. I found some scrap 1/4-inch plywood. This will end up being the bottom for that drawer. And then I have some 1/2-inch plywood here that'll make up the other 2 drawers. And then for drawer bottoms, we're looking at some of this leftover material. This is the last of it that I have. I've used this pretty much on random projects throughout the shop. I had like a 4x5 panel left over from a job I did, and instead of throwing it away, it kind of just kept getting moved around the shop. But I'm glad I'm finally able to like burn through stuff like this. So when I do the final tour, I'm fingers crossed hoping that I can actually show you guys that material cart and I don't feel ashamed about it. Hopefully, you know, it'll just be actual hardwoods and valuable pieces inside the material cart, organized, and all the scraps will have gone into cabinets and builds like this. And once I sand them up and make them look pretty, you guys won't even know they're made out of a bunch of scraps. So let's get over to the, let's see what I'm gonna do first. Let's actually break down a lot of this material on the table saw, then we'll get to assembling stuff. We'll get all the runners cut for the inside of the cabinet. So what we'll do is we'll get all the runners cut, install all the runners, get this cabinet over here on the drill press and have it clamped in because we'll have the runners and the stop installed, and then we'll start building all the drawer boxes. Sounds like a plan. So let's clean off the table so we can get started with the ripping process and continue on with this project. Alright, so now we're over here at the table saw. I have the pieces sorted as, you know, what I want to cut into what. So yeah, that'll do 3, that'll do 3. So that's 6 for the 3 drawers. These pieces are long enough to give me 12. So let's do, how wide is this? Whatever I'm gonna aim for is gonna be half of this. This is just under 3 inches, 1/8 inch kerf blade. Let's just say it was 3, that would be 2 7/8. 2 7/8 and half is 1 inch 3/8. So I'm gonna go 1 1/4 inches. Alright, that's all the runners for the cabinets, and that would also be all the runners I threw away one of the pieces I was supposed to keep. These are the runners for the drawers, runners for the yeah. These are the runners that'll be for the actual drawers. These are the runners that are going to be mounted inside the cabinet. So they need to be cut to length. So I'm going to stack them over here on the miter saw. Then probably go ahead and start cutting all of the cabinet and drawer parts. I'm going to rip all those to length. Probably going to do that, and I'll hop over to the miter saw. So what I'm going to do is actually just move this over here onto the bandsaw for now. Sit that on the drill press. The cabinet box itself is 18 3/4, but my runners are going to be 3/4, and then the cabinet sides themselves are going to be 3/4. So the front piece is going to be like 3 inches smaller than that 18 3/4, minus like another, what is that, 1/4 inch on each side, you know, for wiggle room. So we're probably looking at like a 15 to 16 inch wide cabinet. That's about 30 inches. So I should be able to get a front piece and a side piece all out of one of those. I did have some other scrap 3/4 I was going to rip down for sides, but I can get it all out of that. And now for the smaller cabinets, because my cabinet box is 20 3/8 tall, with a 10-inch drawer at the bottom, 1/4 inch space at the bottom, 1/4 inch space above it, then 2 more drawers. So we'll call it pretty much, I'm gonna have 1 inch. So 11 inches minus the 20 and 3/8. That leaves me with 9 3/8. So I'm probably just gonna do 2 4.5 inch boxes, and that extra 3/8 of an inch, I'll probably just split that in the other, you know, inside the margins. So that way when I put my drawer fronts on them, they can be 1/8 inch larger. in the face of the drawer. It'll go all the way around the perimeter and still leave us with a margin of an 1/8 inch in between each drawer front, if my math ends up being correct. And also, because this kind of slots into the drill press, I'm thinking about making another smaller drawer for down there. Actually, no, I can't because the base is right there. I might fill that in. We'll see. But yes, I need to rip 4.5 inch strips out of this 1/2 inch plywood. This is just under 4 foot, and I'm going to need 16-ish and 12, so like 30 inches. Probably can get 3 pieces out of each strip, so I'll be missing one. Yeah, I'll be missing one. So yeah, I will make the back panel out of this. So I'll take 2 rips out of this piece. Sure, I can go 4.5 inches. And yeah, then get 2 out of this. Alright. 4.5. So that's all the drawer boxes. I'm not going to cut the drawer bottoms until I have the boxes properly sized. So now I can go ahead and cut all the runners to proper length, and we'll hop over to the workbench, install all the runners, get the cabinet pretty much mounted where it's going to be. I'll cut a little piece as a filler to make a stop. And then yeah, once the cabinet has all the runners in it, then we'll hop back to assembling all the drawer boxes. Trying to make sure I'm saying the right words. We're also going to tackle a quick glue up off screen. I'm just going to glue up the bottom box. I have a bunch of 1x6s, so they're only 5.5 inches. That bottom drawer is going to be 10 inches plus, 1/8 inch top and bottom. So I need to glue up 2 of those so I can make some large enough for a drawer front for that one bottom drawer. All right, let's switch over to the miter saw. Alright, so continuing on over here at the miter saw, after doing some measurements, I determined that all the runners, the side pieces on the cabinets, the side pieces on the drawers, they're all going to be the same length, which is the depth of the cabinet box, which is 12 3/8. So I'm actually going to batch out all those before I change over a stop block to cut the drawer fronts. So right now at 12 3/8, I have this pinned down. This is just a block that's attached to the expandable wings on the side of the Makita miter saw. It is a little bit flimsy even when there's a little screw back here that actually tightens this down, but I slid it out to where my clamp will be right in the middle between my wing and this piece, so the pressure from the clamp is also keeping this from being able to move. So I'm not worried about the stop block moving or fidgeting as I go throughout this process. So anybody who is using the Makita miter saw and is trying to cut shorter pieces and having that issue, maybe this will help you. Not sure. But yeah, so now I need to cut all these pieces at 12 3/8. Now, before I change the stop block over, the next thing I want to do is cut the runners that are actually going to attach to the drawers. They're actually going to be the same length as the drawer size themselves, but I'm actually going to end up cutting a small piece off the back of each one when I attach them to the drawer, and that's going to be the stop. Now I'll kind of show you guys how I'm going to do that, but for right now, I'm going to cut them all to the length of the drawer sides. And then we're going to change over the stop to cut all of the fronts. And then we can go back to the workbench and start assembling everything. And you guys will see how everything's going to go together. I believe I did the math on the 3/4 inch cabinet. These ones need to be 15 and 7/16. And how I did that math is the overall inside of the carcass is 18 and 3/8. These are going to be the runners, and they're going to sit on both sides of the cabinet. So then I put this on both sides of the inside of the cabinet, butted it up to it, and took a measurement, and that was, I don't remember anymore. It was like 17, and I'm gonna go over and take a quick measurement so I can tell you guys exactly what it is, how that math worked out. So I didn't have to do any actual math, I just took measurements. So with my two runners butted up on the inside of the cabinet, I have 17 and 3/16. So what that means is that is my opening, and I want to have a margin in between my cabinet box. So with 17 and 3/16, I want to subtract another 3/8. So I'll give me 3/16 on either side of my drawer. So that's 17, and then that becomes 16 and 13/16. But because my side panels for this cabinet is 3/4 or 3/4 inch plywood, I would take that 16 and 13 minus 1 inch and 7. So that ends up leaving us with 15 actually no, this is inch and 3/8. So 15 and 7/16 is what I'm gonna end up cutting these ones to. But that only applies to these 3/4 inch ones. The other ones that are going to be 1/2 inch, the math is different because I have 17 and 3/16, 16 and 13/16 minus 15/16. 16 and 13, so that's 15 and minus 2/16. 15 and 7/8. And that should work out to end up being roughly 1/2 inch more. Yeah, it does. Okay, yeah, 15 and 7/8. Unlike most of the YouTube woodworkers, I'm not scared to do math on camera. That hurt. Alright, 15 and 7/16 and 15 and 7/8 will be my last 3 cuts. And then I can go back to the table saw, cut dados, and size the plywood for the bottom. I kind of want everything kind of cut and ready to assemble before I go to, I don't know, I want to have all the cutting done. That way I know I'm just putting stuff together. So 15 and 7/16 is my next measurement. So to set up the stop block, let's pull from this side, 15. Actually, I might not flipping this. Let's pull from this side, 15 and 7/16. All right. Let's switch back over to the table saw. All right, so now that all the pieces are broken down, the next thing I need to do is cut all the dados. I've already actually did all the math to figure out the the size for all the bottom panels. That's something that you do have to do a little bit of math for. But typically, I like to size my dado one to the plywood that I'm planning to use. But that is how deep your dado is ends up dictating how wide and the size of your actual bottom panel, because it's going to be the interior size or the interior dimension of your drawer plus 2 times the dado depth. If the dado is, you know, 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, you're gonna add 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, so that's 1/2 inch plus the interior width. But then you also want to subtract some, just so you make sure that, you know, your box and everything else still fully closes. So what I did is do the math. These are a little over 1/2 inch when you stack 2 of them together. So I'm actually going to set my dado depth to this piece of plywood. This is actually going to be the width and the depth for my dado. Because I don't have setup blocks, this will help me set the proper depth. And with that, none of the teeth are above this, so the depth of my dado is not going to be the depth of this plywood. Now what I want is off of the fence, I want a 1/2 inch to that side of the tooth. From the bottom of my drawer box. That dado will work for the 3/4 ply. Then I'll do that in multiple passes, but I think for this plywood, for my smaller cabinets, I think I probably should switch to my thin kerf blade, but I probably will not. It's a little bit thicker. It'll probably be 1 pass on all the 1/2 inch stuff, maybe 2 passes on the 3/4 inch material. That's getting the 3/4 inch cabinet. Drawer box is getting the full 1/4 inch plywood. These 1/2 inch drawers, since they're only 4.5 inches wide, I'm going to use the rest of this stuff as the drawer bottom. So the dado width is going to be different. The dado depth is going to be the same, because even with this, depth of a cut, I still have plenty of plywood in here after I cut a kerf that deep. And that just helps me, not have to change as much. I can keep the same distance off the fence and then dial in the kerfs. And pretty much this one is just going to take more passes. It's a little bit to keep up with, but we got it. So with that dialed in, I can take my first pass. Alright, I shouldn't need the table saw for anything else on this project except for drawer fronts, if we get there. But if my math is correct, this should make a drawer. Now all I have to do is go ahead and assemble everything. Well, before we assemble the drawers, we're going to get the runners inside the cabinet, get the base cabinet fully mounted to the thing. Well, actually, I think this is probably why I'm gonna cut this video off. I think it would be a lot inside of this one. In this video, we managed to cover breaking down all the material, ripping and plowing dados for drawers, and getting everything ready for assembly. So in the next video, we'll actually assemble all the runners into the cabinet, build all the drawers, slide all the drawers in, and then have the cabinet mounted to the mobile base. And I think this will be pretty much a fully functioning drill press. I think these are minor upgrades that I think will make a big difference in the overall performance and usability of the drill press, but also the shop itself, because it's going to give me a ton of storage that was just wasted space beneath the drill press this whole time. So if you guys have enjoyed, please support me by following my other socials, being TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and also leaving a like and subscribing to this channel right here on YouTube. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.